recently, Leatherman has come out and they have designed something that has the outdoors in mind. They've designed the Leatherman Signal. Now, this is with that vein of being an outdoor kind of quote unquote survival multi-tool, because it has a lot of options on it that you would want in a survival situation or in the outdoors if you got lost or trapped or something like that, as good backups to your main system. So we're going to talk through that today. There's some great design features, and there's some design features that I think are just a total joke and kind of a gimmick. We're going to talk about both of those today and ultimately discuss, is this Signal really worth purchasing if you're an outdoorsman, or is it better for now just to stick with one of the other Leatherman tools that are out there on the market? We'll talk about that, discuss the pros and cons, and bring that to a conclusion by the end of this video. So thank you so much for coming and checking this out with me today. Let's go ahead, take a look at the Leatherman Signal and see if it's going to be worth purchasing for you outdoorsmen. So a few basic specs for us. USA made. It's going to be 4.5 inches overall length when it's closed up like this. It's going to weigh 7.46 ounces, so about 7.5 ounces, which is rather lightweight for the size of the multi-tool. And then it's going to be 0.64 inches thick. And those are just a few of the basic dimensional specs. So this is one of the parts, and basically that really for me, it's a great idea, ends up being a little gimmicky for me. This is a 2-for-1 fire steel and emergency whistle. How this works is that you open the multi-tool up. There's a little tiny lever right here. You move that leather back, it's spring loaded. So you move that back and you pull it out, and you have the emergency whistle. And then on the flip side, you have a fire steel that you can use the 90-degree spine from the back of the saw to throw sparks. The sparks are very minute. They're not what I would say. Sure, you could start a fire, I'm sure, with them, particularly on cotton balls or something like that. But, you know, in an emergency situation, which is when you'd probably be pulling this out, good luck. I'd rather get a full-on fire steel, get a piece of paracord and lash it to this, or carry it in my pocket or whatever. I just don't see the performance to price point to capabilities to make me say, oh my gosh, I am so glad that this Leatherman has a whistle and has a fire steel. Just isn't quite there for me, and I just feel it could be easily lost. You know, you can replace them, that's fine, but you know, it's just, I don't know, it's just not there for me. It's just not, and I gotta be honest with you guys. Then on the flip side here, we have what is a diamond sharpener. Now the way this works is you depress this little lever right here, it slides off, and then you have about an inch long piece of metal with diamond coated stones on it, and a little bit of a contouring as well. So how that works, you can either run the plain edge or you can run the serrations. And I mean, it will, you know, I mean, it does sharpen, but it's an inch wide. So, you know, it will be able to handle basically this Leatherman tool or like a 3-inch knife. Aside from that, I'm not going to try and sharpen up, you know, a big chopper, an axe, anything like that is not going to be able to be handled with this tool. So it basically allows you to maintain the edge on the multi-tool itself, and that is all, and just barely. And so for, again, that aspect, you know, sure, is it nifty? I guess it's a little too gimmicky for me though, and is something that I just don't really look for in a multi-tool. Now the opening and closing on this is very loose. I would like to see it maybe a little bit tighter. That is maybe just on my model, but they've added this little kind of locking mechanism right here that you just get with your nail and you engage it over the other part of the handle, and now it's locked into place. That'll help secure it a little bit better when you are either bearing down on it or if you were doing some hammering and pommeling and that type of thing. So nice little feature. It's cool. You know, maybe we'd like to see that in the future on some other designs, but that's just a little locking mechanism they offer. All right, we got a lot of business happening on this one end of the tool. Now, after the locking mechanism that I just showed you, right below that is a 1/4-inch hex head driver, so that it could act with any hex head bit, which is a good little added feature. You know, that you could use that, give a little bit more of an extended use for the multi-tool, so that's a nice little feature to have. Below that, we have a 2-in-1 carabiner system. That's always nice to give you multiple attachment options. So we have the sheath, we have the pocket clip, and then we also have the carabiner design, and that also acts as a bottle cap opener. So after you're done surviving, you've gotten rescued, and they hand you a nice cool beverage, you can pop the top and you're not stranded in your refreshment area. The last portion is they give you this kind of pommel hammer area. I don't know. I mean, sure, it's nice that it's there. It's not a huge selling point for me. It's so small and the tool is so light that I would much rather, if I have to hammer something, unless I'm just tapping in a nail very lightly, or, you know, that's about it that I could only see using. Otherwise, I'll just use the saw. I'll saw off a light branch, and then I can hammer in a tent peg, peg for a trap, or you know, I can break nuts, or I can just grab a rock and do the same thing. So it's not a huge selling point for me. It's there. There is a pommel. All right, let's talk about the blade itself. Easy deployment right there with that hole, by the way. But you do have that hollow grind that you know from most Leatherman tools. You know, it's a very similar blade, kind of got a reverse tanto design to it, so you are going to get, you know, some good stabbing if need be with the tip, but the tip is still very strong. It's not going to snap and break on you. Really good relief edge. I like how Leatherman has been doing that recently. I've just seen a better grind angle for the most part. But what we're looking at here overall is a blade length of under 3 inches, and you have 2/3 of it plain edge, 1/3 serrated. And if you know anything about me here at the channel, I'm not a huge fan of serrations. I believe they're just kind of more of, I guess, not a time waster, but a space waster. The plain edge works fantastic for carving and whittling and cutting, but then you run into the serrations, and then they bite really deep, and you don't really get the cuts that you're looking for. And you know, serrations, as long as you have a plain edge that's well maintained, serrations and plain edge cut the same through cordage and that type of thing. So I would have liked to see, bottom line, is just plain edge through and through. It is 420 high carbon steel, which is a decent, you know, budget steel, USA made. I would have liked to see, for the price point, maybe a more premium steel that they use, like S30V or 154 CM. But the 420 gets the job done and is easy to field sharpen, so that is a positive. So I would say if the blade itself was a plain edge overall, I would be really excited about it. With the serrations is kind of a drawback for me, and I'm not super excited with the performance that I'm seeing because I prefer plain edge with this combo edged blade. So they do give you on the deployment a really nice kind of raised lip right here for your thumb to engage the knife. So you're able to open that up. It's a smooth deployment. They do have a bronze bushing in here, as you can see right there. So that's going to keep it nice and smooth. So I like that aspect of it. And then you do have that liner lock right there that is hitting dead center on the blade. So for a more outdoor wood survival, Leatherman multi-tool is what this is designed for. Not that the liner locks are bad on Leatherman tools, but they're definitely, in my mind, designed more as EDC, just kind of light duty tasks, cutting cardboard, some rope, that type of stuff. If I'm bearing down on this, really going through wood and stuff, I kind of prefer the lock back design that are on a lot of their other tools, like the Super Tool 300, the Rebar, and some of those other ones. For the tools, if I'm going to be really bearing down hard on the multi-tool, and if I'm doing a lot of outdoor or even survival or, you know, camp tasks, I'm going to definitely be bearing down. So just be kind of aware of that. These are they are thin. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. They're thin liner locks that will handle, in my opinion, light duty tasks, not hard duty tasks, like the lock back feature that some Leathermans come with. And then you just depress it. You're able to close it up one-handed. So it's definitely a one-handed feature. I like that. One other thing to note as well, with some of those other tools that I listed that are usually the lockback design, the blades are not down here so close. See where I'm holding this, and I'm holding on to kind of an awkward all steel or aluminum, depending on the material, you know, depending on the design, item. I'm really close, and I could accidentally slide up on the blade, and it's a little awkward to have to put my thumb down like this and then do a push cut. It's doable, but when you look at the lockback design versions of multi-tools that Leatherman offers, the blade is above, and that makes it a lot easier to get your thumb easily resting on there. It gives you a little bit more of a lip, so in case you were to slide up or something, holding on to that slick metal for the handle, you have a little bit more of a barrier and a little bit easier way to catch yourself versus these liner lock designs and where the blade is orientated. So the positive is it's one-handed deploying, and you don't have to open the multi-tool to get to the knife and the saw that we're about to look at. The downside is that I just believe it's not quite as strong. It's a little not dangerous at all, but, you know, just you could, you know, slide and cut yourself and hurt your hand. So just be aware of that in this design of the Signal. And when we take a look here at the saw, again being 2.75, you know, decent for a pocket saw. You're definitely going to get nice fine cuts done, and it's, you know, a Leatherman saw. They do a great job with it. I have zero complaints with the teeth, with the design, with the overall features of how it performs. It cuts through wood very easily, and I've always loved the saws that they put, the wood saws in particular, that they put on Leatherman tools in general. As we're going to maybe discuss here, you know, the orientation of a liner lock versus a frame lock may be a little bit of a concern, but the blade itself has great performance in wood's tasks. Then you are getting that saw to deploy, and then you do have that liner lock with, again, the brass bushing. Exact same thing that I've just kind of discussed with you. I'm a lot closer when I'm holding this to the saw, and so, you know, if it was to catch, I'm, you know, sawing and it binds up, boom, I could easily slide up, maybe hurt myself, versus if it was up above, there's a little bit more for me to catch and kind of stop myself versus just right in line with the teeth in my hand. Okay, so on the same arm as the pocket clip, we do have a bit driver. Now it has a little retention bar, just kind of keep that bit in there. It's the kind of, I don't know, the narrow 3/16 of an inch bit design, you know, that you would know. It's not a hex head bit, but Leatherman's been doing that for quite a while. That little retention bar just kind of holds it in there, and then you pull it out, and you got the 3D Phillips head on the other side. They both work well in their, you know, what they're designed to do. They're bits, you know, if you own any other Leatherman or any other type of screwdriver, basically it's going to get the job done. Something to be aware of, though, is that you have to either hold it in this kind of elongated orientation or in a pistol grip orientation. It isn't a huge deal, but, you know, it's not quite as compact and narrow as if you were able to just close up the whole multi-tool, because the hammer gets in the way. I mean, you can kind of do it this way, but it's not going to be a really nice tight fit, and that's the same for all these other tools that we're about to look at in here on this side. So just something to be aware of. Very similar like the Skeletal, you can't close it up completely and use the bit drivers on that side. So just be aware of that in your usage and how you're thinking of implementing the Signal. Now this is a lockback design on this arm, just like with the bits that we just saw in the other two tools. Very solid lockup. I like that a lot. I like the lockback designs that Leatherman does over their liner locks. The liner locks just seem to kind of be a little weak for me. But we got a can opener here. Gonna crank through all of those different, you know, cans that you may need to open. And then we do have another little kind of wire notch here as well that you can notch through some wire if you need to right below that. So that's on this next piece after the bits. Then we have a really good awl right here, nice and sharp. It does a great job punching through all sorts of different material. So if you are needing to use basically a punch, you know, you're not only getting, again, that lockback design, but a good solid feature there in that design. So the price on this Signal is kind of a sticking point for me as well. Because there aren't any, you know, premium materials on it like S30V or 154CM on any of the blades or anything like that. It's just $420, which is still good, and I have no problems with $420. The price they're asking for is $100. We'll have links in the description below over to Amazon. So if you are liking what you see and you think this is something worthwhile, use those links. It's always a great way to help support the channel. But for me, I think $100 is overpriced. Something more around like the $70, maybe $80 mark would be a lot more reasonable to me. There just aren't a lot of tools on here, and the added little features here and there, maybe for R&D is what they're thinking, but I mean, I have so many other multi-tool options at $100 that it's really hard for me to say, yeah, this is worth it for the tools, to the level of performance, and just the level of gimmickiness, whatever, that I'm feeling with this tool. It seems a little overpriced and a little too steep for my blood. Now the pliers work like any other Leatherman. If you own any other of the basically replaceable teeth options out there, you know, I'm thinking like the Super Tool 300, the rebar, I believe it's the Surge. I mean, they all have replaceable teeth with that 154CM, and those bits are always easy to replace. Cuts wire, no problem, like you would expect. Gives you good leverage as well. That's a big plus. You can go through a little heavier gauge material than maybe some of the smaller tools that are out there. And then the teeth work well, not only in the needle nose aspect, but also just to hold bolts so that you can screw them down and do all the tasks that you'd expect your Leatherman, you know, plier portion of the head to do. Now the pocket clip is real nice. It's a tip down option, but for multi-tools it's not a big deal to me. But I like that they made it real nice and flush. It's not loose. It's really nice and snug in there. You can take it off if you desire. But I just like that aspect of it. So it's nice and slim. It's not kind of bulky and biting into your hand when you're grabbing the tool and bearing down on it in your task. Now, aside from the pocket clip, the Signal does come with Leatherman's well-known nylon sheath. It's got Velcro. So folks, time to bring this video to a close and just kind of give you my final thoughts. As you've seen, there's just a lot on this tool that's a little bit too gimmicky for me. And if you were to ask, hey, is this gonna go in any of your kits? It's not. I'm sticking with the rebar and the super tool for now. Those fit my systems, my needs, and I could easily use those, purchase a good fire steel, a good whistle, just lash it with a, either a D-ring, something like that, paracord, whatever, and I would probably end up still spending less money than the $100 that they're asking for this tool. That's my mileage, that's me. Hope that this video has shown you pros and cons with the Signal and whether or not it is truly an outdoorsman multi-tool or not. Ultimately, that's your choice. I hope that this video, though, has pointed you in the pros and cons and shown you and helped you make a better decision. As always, thank you so much for checking out the channel. Please subscribe, comment, like, share this video. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. And as always, remember, stay equipped, stay prepared. We'll see you out there.